Welcome to lesson 1.1, the number line. Here we're looking at positive numbers on the number line, which will also include our fractions and our decimals. Hopefully you've already watched or at least completed your notes, which come from lesson 1.1. So there is a video before this that may be a helpful tool for you that would at least give you some notes examples. I'm going to walk us through just a couple examples that come from our extra practice worksheet. So this comes from the 6th grade Math and Focus textbook, and again, you should have notes to use as a tool for this, and if you're feeling stuck, this would be a great time to dig into those notes. I have them next to you, and maybe see if you can find those examples hidden in there. And also, again, this video is a good support to you if you're feeling like you need more than that. Alright, number 1. I want to remember to read my bold print text, and I know that this idea of Math and Focus and the directions might be somewhat new to some of us. So we'll take a quick minute and we'll take a look at that. I'm fighting with my pens, as so often is the case in the middle of my recording, so I'm sorry. I think we're ready. Complete the number lines by filling in the missing values. Well, when I look at number 1, it's hard for me to give a number or a value for this first point because there's not much information nearby. But if I move along the number line, I notice kind of a series here. To go from 15 to 16, there's a pattern. They added 1. And I'm going to see what happened to go from 16 to 17. It looks like they added 1. Well, that's true each time. It seems to me that it would also be true I could continue counting up by ones. 17 plus 1 would get me 18. 18 plus 1 would get me, oh, this missing piece. I'm looking for 19. I want to continue that pattern counting by ones, so I could clearly number the number line 20, 21, 22. Or I could just start at 22 and add one more on. 23, and then one more jump would be 24. Well, that's great when I'm moving to the right, and I'm guessing that you can continue this pattern to figure out this missing number at the back. But what happens with the numbers up front? Well, if you're moving behind this pattern instead of forward where we were adding, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to subtract. So to move back 1 would be the same as taking away 1. So 15 take away 1 is 14. And if I jump backwards again, move one more interval to the left, I take away another 1. 14 take away 1 is 13. This number line is not quite complete. I left you thinking about this last missing value of the number line, but it's definitely off to a pretty good start. Number 2, I believe you can do the same thing. I want you again to take a look at a pattern. So I'm looking at a series of numbers from 50 to 51 and 51 to 52. There's kind of a complete set here. So if I can figure out what rule they're using to count forwards, in a minute I'll be able to turn that rule around to count backwards and find the missing piece or the missing point that comes before 50. I'm going to fast forward here because I noticed number 3 shows us a different type of problem. Well, it's different because I don't just have these whole numbers. Here they're stretching our thinking to include not just whole numbers, but also mixed numbers, where I have a whole number with a fraction behind it. So I want you to first consider the pattern. What pattern do we see happening to go from 7 to 7 1/4? Or better than that, I could also say, what do I see happening from one whole number to the next? Well, I notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals. If there's 4 intervals, they must be counting by fourths. 4 intervals means I have fourths happening here. Well, if that's true, and I start at 7, 7 plus 1/4 gets me 7 1/4. And plus another 1/4 would get me 7 2/4. Hey, that looks kind of familiar. That 7 2/4 almost reminds me of another mixed number I have seen before. So taking a look at this, I hope you recognize that maybe we can simplify. This would also be the same as what mixed number? Well, if I divide 2 and 4 by a common factor of 2, I would be left with 7 1/2. These are equivalent, they just look like they're in a different format, so they're represented by different numbers to mean the same value or quantity. This is good information. I always want you to consider if there's another name that we need to show. If it's not in simplest form, this is a great idea. But If I decide to count here from 7.5 to the next number, I could have some trouble because I just ruined my fourths and my 4 intervals. So I'm going to go back and continue that counting by fourths idea, starting at 7, which is our whole number, 7 1/4, 7 2/4. Next would come 7 3/4. You're jumping 3 of those 4 intervals. If I jump one more time here, I'm at 8, a whole number, but I sometimes would rename him as 7 4/4. He has 2 names, some named by day, some named by night, right? He's kind of like a superhero. Oftentimes they have different identities. All right, let's keep on going with this idea. If 7 4/4 is the same as 8, I want to consider how many intervals I see between 8 and 9. Well, hopefully you're recognizing there's 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals again, so I'm adding on fourths. I'm counting by fourths. So 8 plus 1/4 would get me more than 8. It would get me 8 1/4. Hopping another time down the number line, I'd land at 8 2/4. Oh, that also has another name, 8 1/2. But I'm going to stick with that idea of fourths to help my counting. So 8 2/4 plus 1 more fourth gets me 8 3/4. My number line is complete. Again, you might want to consider giving me multiple names when it's necessary. So if it helps us to see that 7 4/4 is the same as 8, we might want to write that. Let's take a look at number 4, because this time they stretch our thinking beyond whole numbers and beyond mixed numbers, and they're giving us some decimals. Well, I'm looking for a series where the 2 points or the 2 tick marks on the number line are next to each other, and that doesn't happen for this problem. Here I have 3.5, also known as 3 5/10, and then if I hop a ways over here, I get to 3 52/100, or 3.52. Well, there's something missing in between, and it's kind of hard to see. In fact, it's hard to see because here this 5 is in the 10th place, and this 2 is in the 100th place. There's probably a good way to fix this up, just like we did in our notes. So what could I put at the back of this 5 to get this to land in the 100th place, to make sure that my place values are similar? Well, hopefully you remember, and we put a placeholder here. A 0 will work. And this also reminds me of something 6th graders tend to like. Money. This kind of resembles $3.50. Then something else happens here that we're going to skip over, and then we get to $3.52. What do you notice has changed? Well, now there's a pattern that behind the decimal in the hundredths place, we've added 2 extra cents, or 2 extra hundredths. Well, that's because I hopped over twice. What if I only hopped once? Oh, you'd only add 1 extra cent, or 1 extra hundredth. So here we have 3 51/100ths. We want to continue this pattern, so they're going to add another penny each time, add another hundredth each time. So although they did not ask for it, this location on the number line would be 3 53/100ths. And I would go another time and add another penny or another hundredth. And this location would be 3 54/100ths. I want you to continue that pattern. See if that will get you all the way down the number line. And if we're doing really well, when you're done, you should get to 3 6/10ths, also known as 3 60/100ths. Now it looks more like money. They all agree and end in the hundredths place. Let's keep going here in case you need a little more help. So next we're going to take a look at number 5. There are some new directions to this section, so we want to look at the bold print text and what they're telling us to do. So for number 5, 6, and also on the next page, 7 and 8, we're going to follow the same bold print directions. We are going to create a horizontal number line. We're going to try to. Let's see if I can make that disappear. We're going to draw a horizontal number line to represent each set of numbers. Well, I hope you're flinging out your arms as we speak. Horizontal. That should look familiar to you. We are moving from left to right, and I'm giving myself quite a bit of room to work. I know it says even numbers, but that's almost like talking about those special words, those keywords like between and from. What I want to tune into is what whole numbers do they give me to work with? Well, between 30 and 45. I'm ready for this idea because I know 30 is the minimum and 45 is the maximum. So let's go ahead and start by numbering off our number line. I'm using these tick marks to make sure I have decent labels. I think it would make good sense to count by 3s. these two numbers do not have such a considerable range that we can go ahead and just count by 1 each time. Oh, we're getting close. 42, 43. I have to extend my number line, don't I? 44 and 45. Well, good. I have all of my tick marks. I have all of my labels. The thing that I need to go back now and tune into is more than just the minimum and the maximum. I want to see if there are any keywords that will help me figure out where the important points belong. So I noticed this word between. Uh-oh, there's that bully. This word leaves out endpoints. So please leave out your endpoints. Don't you dare put a mark on 30. Don't you dare put a mark on 45. But now we have to dig a little bit deeper because this had a second magical word to it where it says even. I only want the even numbers between 30 and 45. So let's get ready to put some points on. Is 31 even? The answer is no. It is between 30 and 45, but it's not even, so let's skip it. How about 32? Oh yeah, numbers that end in 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0 are even. This gets a point smack dab on the number line. How about 33? Oh, that has an odd number at the back. We're going to skip over him. What about 34? Oh, ends in a 4. That makes it even. Let's try again, 35. Well, that's an odd number, so I'm not going to put a point on it. This tick mark, this location, can be on the number line, but without a point. How about 36? 36 is absolutely on the number line, and it's absolutely an even number. That is between 30 and 45. I want you to continue this pattern. If you notice, it's kind of like we say skip, point, skip, point, skip, point, skip, point. And that pattern continues. Skip, point, skip, point, skip, point. And we would have skipped 45 anyway because it is odd, but that's not the real reason why it didn't get a point. It did not get a point because of this evil bully word called between. All right. For number 6, we want to take a look at this number line where it says, again, horizontally, because the directions came from up above, that bold print text, we want to represent whole numbers greater than 15 but less than 26. Well, I noticed something. At least I could spot a minimum and a maximum pretty quickly. So let's start our number line here at 15, and let's go all the way up to 26. Trying to make my intervals about the same size. Again, it's impossible to be exact in this situation, but try to get close. Well, my number line looks really embarrassing. You should not be thrilled with this number line yet. What is it missing? Points, just like we talked about in our notes. All good number lines deserve points. So let's get to the point. It says whole numbers greater than 15. Well, do you see any whole numbers that are bigger than 15? Greater than 15. Oh yeah, 16, 17, 18, 19, all of these besides 15 are greater than 15. So I'm going to kind of remember myself, leave off that 15. We want the numbers that are greater than him. But in a minute it also says we want to make sure we stay less than 26. Well, 26 is way over here. What's a number that's less than that? Oh, like 25 or 24 or 23. All of these numbers to the left are less than 26. But there's a trick here. 26 is on the outside of that, isn't it? We want numbers smaller than 26, so I can't include him in the points. So if you think about that, this is just like a bully word we've learned before. It's just another way of bullying a number line. Instead of saying the word between, they use the words greater than or less than. If someone runs around saying they're greater than you and you're less than them, no doubt they're wrong, and they're probably treating you a bit like a bully would. So again, these are kind of like those bully words. Leave out the end points. Leave out 15 and 26. Let's turn our paper over and take a look at the next couple of horizontal number lines. See if I can give you any hints to get you started. These get a little bit more challenging because we're back to looking at fractions for number 7 and decimals for number 8. So for number 7, remember, same directions from the previous page. What are we making? A horizontal number line. Perfect. Fractions from 6 to 7. Oh, beautiful. They gave me the whole numbers. I'm going from 6 all the way to 7. But I'm missing some things in between, I'm sure. So it says, with an interval of 1/5, hey, look at that denominator. I'm counting by fifths. So how many parts should I make? How many intervals should you see? The answer is 5. I'll remind you from our notes, if you hold up your hand really quickly and you want 5 intervals, just like we have 5 fingers, how many gaps or divisions do we have in between? 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to draw 4 equally spaced lines. 1, 2, 3, 4 to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervals. This looks pretty fabulous until you notice, it's missing points. This is bad news. I need to make sure that I find the fractions from 6 to 7. Oh, I saw something here. I hope you noticed it. I'll emphasize this right here. From, oh, that number, or that word I should say, looks so friendly because he wants to include all the numbers. So first of all, we need to get some labels on here, don't we? To go all the way from 6 to 7, I need to figure out what this location would be called. Well, if I started at 6 and hopped 1/5 of the way, I would be at 6 1/5. What if I hopped again? Well, you hopped twice, you moved 2/5 of the way. You were at 6 2/5. Let's continue that pattern. This next stop might be called 6 3/5. Don't forget, 6 4/5. And this should be 6 5/5. What happened? Did we make a mistake? The answer is no. This really means the same thing as 7, doesn't it? All right, great number line, but it's so embarrassing because it's missing the points. Let's go from 6 to 7. From means include everything from here to there. So 6 is included, 6 1/5 is included, 6 2/5 is included, 6 3/5 is part of the problem, 6 4/5 is an important point, and even 7. This is like when we raced from here to there. When you start the race, I know you were a little panicked in class the other day, a few of you. You have to start from the same location and go all the way to the end of the race, or you can't win. So we want you to win this race with this number line. Go from one end to the other, include the end points. From is friendly. Number 8, let's look at some decimals between 9 4/10 and 10 5/10 with an interval of 0 1/10 between each pair of decimals. Holy information, Batman. Well, we'll give it a try anyway. I know that the directions from up above, from the previous slide actually, tell me to build a horizontal number line. Yours might have a slight squiggle in it also. Maybe it looks better than mine. That would be nice too. Can you tell me what the minimum, the tiniest number that they mentioned is? Oh, you should say I noticed it's 9.4. 9 4/10 is smaller than 10 5/10, which happens to be the maximum. Let's go ahead and try to set this up on my number line. But instead of putting 9 4/10 in the smallest location over here, and then ending way over here with 10 5/10, I might want to tune into this. With an interval of 1/10, what's that mean? Well, earlier, with an interval of 1/5, it meant add 1/5 each time. Well, with an interval of 0 1/10, it means add 0 1/10 each time. Well, let's give this a try. And the reason why I don't really want to plot that 10.5 over here, even though I could try, is that my intervals might not be equally spaced if I did that. So I'd rather give it a try, starting here from my minimum and adding 1/10 each time. What is 9 4/10 plus 1/10 more? 9 5/10. What is 9 5/10 plus 1/10 more? 9 6/10. What is 9 6/10 plus 1/10 more? 9 7/10. What is 9 7/10 plus 1/10 more? 9 8/10. What if we went another time on the number line? I'd be at 9 9/10. What if I moved another time? What's 9 9/10 plus one little tiny tenth? Can you picture it? Well, this 9 plus 1 would get me a 10. It's going to get me a 0 in the tenths place, and that 1 gets regrouped up top. 9 9/10 plus 1/10 gets me 10 0 tenths. I'm going to continue this idea. I'm going to move another time, and I know 10 and 0 tenths plus 1 tenth more should get me, whoops, 10 and 1 tenth. And plus another one here, I would record 10 and 2 tenths. If I show another one here, I'd be at 10 and 3 tenths. So that tenths pattern is increasing again. It's increasing by 1 each time. 10 and 4 tenths, 10 and 5 tenths, and I get to stop because there I hit my maximum. Well, this is a beautiful number line, but it's so embarrassing because it's missing some points. We also want to tune into some keywords here. So does anybody see something that's critical to this problem? Decimals between. Oh my goodness, that sounds like that bully again. I only want the decimals that land between. So let's see if I can find something that's between 9 and 4 tenths and 10 and 5 tenths. Oh, 9 and 8 tenths, that's between. Oh, 10 and 0 tenths, that's between. What about 9 and 5 tenths? Is that between? Yes, it is. How about 9 and 4 tenths? Is that between? Oh no, that's actually on the end of it, isn't it? That's not between. Who's someone else that's between 9 and 4 tenths and 10 and 5 tenths? Oh, what about this 10 and 4 tenths? I just said the wrong thing here. I will mention I have a cold, so if I'm making mistakes, forgive me a little bit. But 10 and 4 tenths is definitely between 9 and 4 tenths and 10 and 5 tenths. I noticed that all of these other decimals are between our two endpoints. Should I just keep on going and include those endpoints? The answer is no. Between. Leave out the endpoints. We often say between is the bully. This is the final answer. Not only do I have a beautiful horizontal number line with labels and tick marks, I also have a beautiful collection of points. The last two problems on this page, number 9 and 10, change the directions on you a little bit. And every year I have some students that forget to tune in to the bold print text. This is important to me, and it will make a big difference in what you do here. So this next section, bold print, it's shouting at you, hey, read me, okay? Draw a vertical number line to represent each set of numbers. Vertical, you should be jumping all over that. You should remember that this V of vertical reminds me of an arrow up and down. Here we go. Let's sketch some really quick vertical number lines. Vertically, up and down. For number 9, I want the whole numbers greater than 20 but less than 27. Oh, there they go again. Somebody's greater than, somebody's less than. Oh, those remind me of bully words. We're going to leave out some endpoints. In just a minute, you can set this up for me, but you're going to leave out the endpoints. So let's talk. What's the minimum? The minimum would be 20. It's smaller than 27, which is the maximum. So where do the smaller numbers go, or the lesser numbers on a vertical number line? You would say lower is lesser. So down low, I'm going to have this 20. I'm going to count all the way up this number line until I hit 27, the maximum. So let's try that now. Everything is labeled. How beautiful. But we're missing some points. So let's touch this up really quickly. What should I do to show the numbers that are greater than 20? Well, it would be any number bigger than 20, right? But then it also says, but they better be less than 27. Well, that's anything smaller than 27. So think about that. Greater than 20 is anything going this way. Less than 27 is anything going that way. Well, where does this intersect? Well, these are those bully words. So everything that is between 20 and 27 will receive a point. This is a final answer. Those extra arrows, maybe that was a bad idea. I just started to think about the direction that they were talking in. Greater than meant, hey, the number's bigger than, and less than meant the number's lower than 27. Number 10, probably the trickiest one on the page. Save the best for last, right? Here I'm looking for this vertical number line, and I know that because it was in the bold print directions. I'm going to create fractions between 5 and 7. Oh, they already gave me whole numbers. Thank you very much. That sure makes life easier, right? So here, I'm going to show 5 and 7. Is 5 bigger or smaller than 7? Well, you should say it's smaller. It's the least. It's actually the minimum we need to show on our number line. So I'm going to show 5 at the bottom, or lower, because it's worth less. Well, that means that the 7 must be the maximum, so it's going to go near the top. But I'm thinking those are two whole numbers that aren't next to each other on the number line typically. What's between 5 and 7? Oh, 6. So midway on my number line, I'm going to show that 6 would occur here. Well, I got a good start because my whole numbers are there. But next it goes on to say with an interval of 1/3 between each pair of fractions. An interval of 1/3, if you look back to what we did earlier, when they tell me the interval size, they're saying, hey, count by this denominator. Count by 1/3. Or we might just simply say, add 1/3 each time. Well, I notice this denominator, it's screaming at me. Hey, I'm a 3. What's that mean? We need 3 intervals. We need 3 intervals or parts between each set of whole numbers. So to go between 5 and 6, I might hold up 3 fingers real quickly, and I notice that between them I have 2 divisions. So I'm going to draw 2 lines. Did that make thirds? Let's look. 1, 2, 3 equal parts, 3 intervals. Good. Let's try again. Between 2 whole numbers, between 6 and 7, I need to have 3 intervals. Well, to get 3 intervals, I use 1 less line. Kind of weird, but it's true. I now have 1, 2, 3 intervals between 6 and 7 also. This number line looks pretty nice, but it is missing some labels, so let's talk about what should happen. If we start at the bottom and I'm at 5, and we said each time I'm moving 1/3, I'm counting by thirds, it says, or intervals of 1/3. 5 plus 1/3 gets me 5 and 1/3. If you move another time, that's a second hop on this number line, so you've hopped twice out of the 3 parts we're given, 5 and 2/3. If I go another time, well, there's already a number there, but sometimes 6 is the same as 5 and 3/3. If we hop another time, well, I could say 5 and 4/3, that would still be true, but using this idea of 6 whole, what's 6 plus 1/3 more? 6 and 1/3 would be a more standard way of noting this stop on the number line. 6 and 1/3 plus 1 more third makes 6 and 2/3. And if I hopped one more time, 7 could have another name. It could also be known as 6 and 3/3. This number line is totally embarrassing. I'm so sorry you had to see this. What is it missing? Points, of course. I've really been trying to emphasize that with students. So please make sure you get points on this number line. Now I do notice this bully. I'm looking for the fractions between. So anything that lands between 5 and 7. I know that in a minute, these intervals, each of these stops along my number line that happen between 5 and 7, receive points. I did not actually show you the points. This number line is incomplete. I repeat, it needs some help. It needs your points in the correct location. But I'm scared that if I keep giving you all the steps, that I'm going to have a student out there that stops thinking for themselves. So I never want that. I only want you to use this as a tool. You're always allowed to stop my video, try something, and come back and check and see if you were on the right track. That definitely makes you a more independent learner. That way we know that you are starting to become your own motivated self. So keep giving your best. Use the videos as a tool, not as a way to just copy down answers. Because if you're just copying answers, you're going to have trouble in the long run. I hope you are getting a better understanding of both our vertical and horizontal number lines. I hope that you're looking out for those keywords like greater than and less than, in between and from, and that this wordiness with intervals isn't quite as scary today.